Hello everyone, here is the video I promised for the assessment report and presentation. So the first step is, of course, identifying your student. If you can work with a student who has English language learning needs, then that's great, and we'll give you a lot of understanding on how to write these reports. If not, then that's okay. Then you'll be going through and doing the student information. So as you can see here, this is the syllabus on one side and here's the template on the other. So we've got name, date of birth, languages, English, and if there's other languages spoken at home, then list those as well. If it is an ELL student, then put the CELT scores right there so that we can kind of see what level they are. Disability with description. So what that means is if the student has, for example, specific learning disability or is on the autism spectrum disorder, I want you to explain what exactly that means for that student. Both of those disabilities are very broad, and things can manifest differently for different students. And so here is just a few sentences about what it looks like. So for example, if it's a student who has a specific learning disability, there's a good chance that they have either an auditory or visual or motor processing disorder. You know, and maybe it comes up in their reading comprehension or their ability to you know, understand higher level text or something to that effect. Any evaluations that have been done in the past, this is just for us to gain a sense of where the student is as far as being evaluated and supported. The age, the grade, the examiner, and this is the grade that they are enrolled in according to their transcripts. The examiner is you. And then the instruments used. And remember, I mentioned we're going to do a normed reference formal assessment. That'll be the Woodcock-Johnson or the Wyatt. The criterion reference assessment. That'll be the RAT or the Berkans. Work samples. And then you're going to do a teacher interview. And I want to know who you interviewed and the date. And notice it says interviews there. So if you can get perspectives of multiple teachers, that's great. Also a classroom observation. What subject you went in and observed, the date, the time. And that's all you have to list right there. Oops, I scrolled down too far too quickly. And then the health records. So they should have hearing, vision, and oftentimes they'll have other health information that you can get. Then the student background, so any educational history, family interview, talk to the family about the student's educational experience. This is where you'll actually put the educator interview. And then the student interview. You do need to interview your student, find out about what they like, what they don't like, you know, how they feel about their progress in school, and if there is anything that they need help with, and then write out your observations here. So this is more narrative, above was more listing. Then, like I said, you're going to be reporting out on the results of either the Woodcock-Johnson or the Wyatt. So I have the Woodcock-Johnson 4 here, and I've created a table. You're going to decide based on your district if you're going to report out on age or grade equivalent, so AE or GE, and that should be there. And then just erase. If you're going to do grade, then erase the age, erase the AE. Then you also want the standard score, the percentile rank, and the classification. And then I've got most of the subtests, but this may not be perfect based on which subtest you actually administer. So you will be changing this chart most likely. So there's the test there, and then there's another part with academic knowledge and phoneme, grapheme knowledge. And so once again, this one has an RPI. Which is a little different than the percentile rank, which we'll learn more about. Next, you've got the Wyatt 3, and here once again you do the standard score, the age or grade equivalent, the percentile, and then the classification, which we'll be talking about. Here's the RAT 4, and we've got all the different subtests. You've got the standard score, the percentile, and the classification there. The Bergans, and if you're doing that. So once again, you only have to do the RAT or the Bergans. You don't have to do both. And then you're going to insert a picture of a work sample, and you're going to tell me why you chose that work sample to support the results of the test. And then you're going to also tell me what directions the student was given to complete that work sample. So you can see here that the results need to have a table and pictures, and you need to make sure to explain the strengths, areas of growth, and all of that. But you need to have the tables there. And then you're also going to write out a narrative about the qualitative observation. So did the students sit still? Were they able to concentrate? Did they give up? Did they count on their fingers? Did they sound out words, or were they able to read in their head, or that type of thing? So you're going to write that out. And then you've got the strengths section. So here, after doing all of this assessment, you're going to go through and you're going to figure out the 3 strengths, at least 3 strengths. And you're going to provide evidence. So for example, this student is highly skilled at math calculations, and then you're going to talk about how many, or what the standard score or the percentile rank of their math calculations were for the Wyatt or the Woodcock-Johnson. You're going to talk about their math score in the RAT, and then possibly the work sample. So you're giving evidence for each one of the strengths that you provide. And then the same thing with growths, areas of growth. And here you're going to want to tell me, or tell the reader, after doing all this assessment, a student can't learn everything, but you can pick out 3 areas, specific areas where you want to see them improve, and then give explicit information on how that is an area of growth based on the different assessments, much like for the strengths. Then we've got the suggested IEP goals, and I actually now write these out for you, so you just have to kind of fill in the blank to make sure that you've got these. You do learn about IEP writing in another course, and so this one is just more, these are called SMART goals, and so I provided them for you there. And they should relate to all of the areas of growth. So if there was an area of growth around math, then you should have a goal around math. If there was one around reading, writing, or speaking, then you should have a goal around that. And if you want to do one on behavior transition or self-management, then, and you've talked about that as an area of growth, then you need a goal as well. One little caveat that's important is with English language learners, if they haven't, if they are still considered ELL under the CELT scores, then they do need to have some sort of reading, writing, or speaking goal, some sort of English language arts goal that addresses their language. And if you have a high school student over 16, then you have to have a transition goal. So those are just things to keep in mind around best practice. The progress monitoring section is once again a narrative where you are going to tell me how you're going to measure these goals and how you'll keep track of the student's progress. Who's going to be accountable for gathering the data, and who will the data be shared with, and how often. So here's where you're going to tell me about your plan for possibly, for their reading goal. Maybe they have a reading log, the student has a reading log, the parent checks it and signs off on it, and you give reading tests on a weekly basis, and then you graph the scores of the reading test to see if the reading level goes up, and you share it with the team during the like at the end of every semester or something to that effect. So you've now told me all the pieces of how you're going to do that, and you're going to do that for each goal. Then collaboration. Remember, I've mentioned many times that collaboration is essential in special education. So I want to know how you're going to collaborate with the student, if appropriate, the family, other services that could be mental health services. It could be occupational therapists, physical therapists. It could be speech and language pathologist. It could be, providing augmented devices for, a student on the spectrum. So any of those types of things, and who you're going to work with and how you're going to get these services. And then any school staff. So this could be if there is a paraprofessional who is working with the student and how you'll work with them. And then the last part is the reflection on the assessment. So things won't always go right for you during this assessment writing process and administering. And so I just want to know what went right, what went wrong, what would you do differently next time, who would you work closer with next time, where can you go for support in the future, and any other thoughts that you have now that you've finished the assessment process. As you can see on the syllabus, we do have peer editing as part of this course. So you will be reading a few of your colleagues' assessment reports before they turn them in. And they will be giving you feedback. So they'll be checking to make sure you have all the areas. I also have all the assignments. We'll go through each section. So for example, on the progress monitoring, we do an online IRIS module on classroom measurements, and in there they talk about best practice around progress monitoring. So I will look to see, did you include all of those steps and ideas when you were coming up with your progress monitoring idea? And then we'll be giving a final presentation at the end. And here's some of the big things that we're looking for in those presentations, those final presentations, and in your final report. So I wanted to give you some examples. So I'm just going to very quickly go through here, and you can see that these aren't exactly the same, like the way that they did it, but they both did use Times New Roman 12-point font because that's accepted. Here, this person's got the teacher input, the observation, the cultural responsiveness, the different assessments used. She's got the table here, and then also puts a little caveat on there. She's got the RAT scores here. She didn't do the percentile rank, so that would be a downfall on part of her grade. She's got the writing sample here. She didn't explain the steps that she took or the rationale on why she chose that. She does have the students' areas of strength with examples. Here's the areas of need with examples from the RAT, from the Woodcock-Johnson. And then the recommended goals. Here's her progress monitoring idea of how she would keep track of everything. The collaboration for each one of the people who she'd be working with, and then her final reflection. And you can see for this person, same thing, student background, the student history, she's got that all sectioned out. The assessments used is a little bit different. She's got the chart for her Woodcock-Johnson and also for her Brigance. And she also explains here what each one of those things are, which is really helpful. You can see she did a lot with the Brigance. Then she's got the work samples. She wrote a sentence about it, but she didn't actually explain the directions or the rationale. She's got the strengths here, where she talks about, where she refers back to the assessments, the areas of need with the IEP that are jumping off to the IEP goals, and then the progress monitoring plan and the collaboration that she'll do in order to make sure that that's successful, and then her reflection on the assessment process. So as you can see, they both went through, they did it slightly different, but and they didn't get all sections, but they had a good start. And then here's just the final presentation that we will do at the end, where I will give you this template, and then you've got about a 5-minute speech. Anyway, good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.